January 13th, 2019. Dearest Gail, as you well know, I've been hard at work solving the dilemma of our current poop pregnancy crisis on board Church of Gail. I sit here writing to you now with my exceptionally long penis buried deeply and warmly into my vagina butt. Or, if I may say more correctly, our vagina butt. I couldn't be more thankful than now for the blessing that is my 18.5-inch manhood, as the gentle hugging from your vagina inside my rectum is perhaps the source of my strength during these trying times. Meanwhile, on Church of Gail, the rest of the men have understandably become deeply emotionally distressed. One must understand that for a man, pooping is an essential part of their masculinity. Aside from masturbation in the mornings, the evenings, and sometimes afternoons in the workplace bathroom, pooping is one of the most magical and empowering times of a normal man's day. The physical pain of our swollen bowels, combined with the loss of a critical emotional outlet, has led many of our men to fall into depression. And a constant line has since formed outside of Gerard Butler's psychiatry office. "Why don't you consent to a colostomy, Vladimir?" Gerard asked. "No!" Vladimir pounded his fist on the table. "Colostomy bag is for walking dead like Hillary Clinton. I would rather be euthanasia like dog than become as Hillary Clinton." "Aye, Vladimir. Hopefully it will not come to that," Gerard replied calmly in his soothing voice. "With Brent working hard at a solution for all this, soon we men may all poop honorably on our own terms." Similar conversations were had with all of the men reporting to Gerard's office for counseling. Similar, except for one strange outlier, Bubba, the morbidly obese black Jesuit. Bubba, of course, is not a man on the marriage list, nor did he receive a vagina butt. However, Bubba, murmuring to himself through tears, has joined the line time and time again to speak with Gerard. "Lick my butthole," Bubba would sob weakly. "Lick my butthole. Lick my butthole." "Aye, laddie," Gerard would say. "I cannot understand ye. You need me to lick your butthole?" It wasn't until after recruiting the help of Hugh Jackman, who could understand Bubba speak, that we finally figured out what he has been trying to talk to Gerard about. It turns out that poor Bubba has never healed from the loss of his late ginger boyfriend. As you may remember, Bubba's ginger boyfriend died in 2017 at the extremely fat hands of Sarah Avery. Sarah Avery, the massively obese biological weapon of the old Jesuit order, devoured Bubba's ginger boyfriend in one gulp while the two lovers were on a romantic stroll through San Francisco. Bubba had planned to propose to his ginger that same day. He had even had the ring in his pocket. Bubba, still faithful to his ginger boyfriend, refuses to let death keep them apart. He is still committed to the one true love of his life and cannot bear to move on. He would rather allow his butthole to become dry, cracked, and withered from being unlicked than ever give his butthole to the tongue of any other man on this earth. Gerard was moved to tears as Hugh Jackman explained Bubba's passionate and overwhelming grief, wiping the wetness from the crease of one eye as he scribbled down notes onto his notepad. I have since asked our church to pray for him, and I ask that all of our followers do the same. As to the physical health crisis at hand, or should I say at vagina butt, I had been making slow and uneven progress. While I understood the anatomy and biology involved, I didn't quite understand the science. I knew I was going to need more help. I needed a real scientist, someone who knew everything from the 3 phases of matter to how weather balloons worked, someone with real knowledge, with a solid reputation that one could trust. It was while I was on my way for a coffee break that my prayers had been answered. Rolling up on a skateboard, a white lab coat sailing behind him in the wind, was none other than Bill Nye the Science Guy. "What's up, dude?" Bill Nye proclaimed. One of our church members in the hallway gasped. "Bill Nye the Science Guy!" they exclaimed. This got the attention of the entire floor. Church members began pumping their fists, chanting, "Bill, Bill, Bill!" "Bill Nye," I said. "Boy, am I glad to see you. You're like an angel sent from God himself." "Thank you, Brent. I got many tweets from Gail followers telling me that you all needed my help. So what kind of poop situation have you boys gotten yourselves into now? Well, not to sound like a party pooper, but our vagina butt Christmas gifts from Jesus came with one dilemma. We can't poop! Well, that's just shitty, he chuckled. Come on, my constipated friend, let's get to the lab. Bill Nye slid his goggles down over his eyes. He then dropped his skateboard and motioned for me to hop on. I jumped on board, wrapping my arms around his waist, and the two of us were off to the lab like a pair of superheroes flying down the hallway. The first thing to do was get Bill up to speed on everything I'd already tried. So far, our initial experiments had been performed on monkeys. Using my surgical prowess as a doctor, I had attempted to simply reroute the colon through the urethra. Obviously, we first tried to get the monkeys to poop through their penises. Their penises were simply not fit to deliver poop babies. The urethrae ruptured, filling the testicles with poop until they exploded. When that didn't work, we tried to create an additional hole in the vagina that could pass poop. The monkey labia simply swelled with poop until the monkeys once again exploded. By the end of the experiments, all monkeys involved had died. It just doesn't make sense, Bill, I said. Indian women poop from their vaginas. That's how they lubricate themselves before sex. Why can't I just perform a race change operation on our vagina butts to get them to function like an Indian woman's? Well, Indian women also excrete small amounts of poop through their lungs and their pores, so the actual amount of poop that is excreted from their vaginas is relatively small compared to the poop babies you men need to deliver. You're right, Bill. I hadn't considered that. What else can we do? First things first. These experiments need to be done on humans, not monkeys. But Bill, all the monkeys involved so far in our experiments have died. Trust me, Brent. The U.S. pharmaceutical industry does this all the time. I realized that Bill was right. If we were going to handle this like a professional government study, we were going to need to select eligible human volunteers. Very soon, we had collected a diverse testing group consisting of prison inmates, welfare recipients, illegal immigrants, mentally retarded orphans, prostitutes, and of course the homeless. Each participant was promised $5 for their cooperation. With no time to lose, we dove straight into the testing phases. My laboratory desk turned into my literal drawing board. As each idea rushed to mind, I found myself scribbling furiously like a madman. Sketch after sketch, formula after formula, I drew out plans and diagrams that would be immediately handed off to Bill Nye for implementation. No can do, Brent, he would report. The subject pooped from every orifice, then immediately died. Or, hey, Brent, they died again, but this time they came back as a poop-craving zombie. Or, that didn't work. It had the same result as the human centipede idea. Hundreds of ideas, hundreds of sketches, hundreds of formulas. My mind churned like a machine, and after every failure, I found myself right back at my desk, head in my hands. Finding a solution was beginning to seem hopeless. This should do it, Bill said as he eyed the syringe in his hands, flicked it with his fingers and squirted out the air bubbles. He turned and stuck the needle into the bicep of a large prison inmate. Moments passed as we waited for the results. All of a sudden, the inmate's eyes bulged, and he began screaming. Startled, I jumped to my feet, my body stiff with full alarm as I gripped my desk with one hand. The screaming crescendoed like a siren. The inmate clawed at his face, full teeth bared. As his eyes rolled back into his head, mountains of poop began pouring out of his eyes. He continued screaming. He screamed until his entire bowels had emptied themselves from his eye sockets and covered the floor of the lab. I sighed and collapsed back into my chair. I peeled the latest sheet of paper off of my desk and crumpled it up into a ball, tossing it into a now overflowing trash can of discarded, failed designs. Bill Nye patted the now blind inmate on the shoulder, handing him a $5 bill on his way out of the room. Our team of retard janitors in hazmat suits promptly arrived on the scene to mop up the latest explosion of poop. What's next, Brent? Well, I said, looking at my overflowing wastebasket, I should take this trash out, then we can regroup. Just then, one of our nanotechnology research techs entered the room. No need to take out the trash, Brent, he said, pulling out his Android phone. He fiddled with his phone for a moment, then pushed a button on the screen. The trash inside the trash can began to glow a brilliant blue, and within seconds, the trash dissolved seemingly into thin air. Wow, Bill exclaimed. So you guys switched to vaporizing trash. That's very environmentally conscious of you. Actually, the trash was transported, the tech explained. We invented a new app that allows us to take our trash and transport it out into deep space. Well, that makes sense, Bill replied. There's a lot of space in space. Interesting, I remarked, narrowing my eyes and rubbing my silver 5 o'clock shadow. Wait, Brent, I've seen that look before, Bill said. What are you thinking? We hadn't another moment to lose. With Bill's help, we quickly got to reverse engineering the app and adjusting it to fit our needs. Within the next hour, we had a migrant worker with an expired work visa on our treatment table. Okay, I announced. Are you ready, Bill? Ready. Energize, I called. Bill flipped the switch on the wall beside him. It was a tense moment. The migrant began to glow a sparkling blue. All of a sudden, there was a loud zing, and we all covered our eyes from the brilliant flash of blue light before us, a wet plop. We uncovered our eyes and looked back to the table. The migrant worker was gone, and in his place was a pile of poop. I stared, mouth agape, as a single rogue piece rolled off the table and onto the floor. I was aghast in shock and frustration. Bill, instead of transporting the poop into space, we transported the migrant worker into space, and his poop was left behind. This was the moment I finally lost all hope. We were nowhere closer to finding an answer. I'd given my last remaining ounce of strength to this project and felt like I could give no more. I sunk to my knees and covered my face with my hands, praying to Jesus. Brent, Bill called. I think I know what went wrong. Bill rushed to a computer panel on the wall and began tapping on the screen, making adjustments to our code. We just need to invert the fecal phase discriminator and compensate for relativistic harmonics in the subspace matrix. Only problem is we're out of test subjects. He was right. Take me, I said. Bill's eyes widened. But Brent, this is too big of a risk. And you, my friend, are not an expendable. We need you. Look, there's plenty more homeless people in California. We just need to bait them with spare change and pieces of bread like we did last time, and we don't have time. Test it on me. Brent, it's just a theory. I don't even know if it will work. I'm not an expert in this field. Bill, I said, placing my hand on his shoulder, your experience as a scientist on television is exactly what makes you qualified to tackle tough scientific and social issues such as climate change and helping men poop out of vagina butts. I believe in you. You can do this. Bill exhaled, stoking himself up for the task. He nodded to me. You really are a vast and red-blooded man, Brent. I appreciate your faith in me, I smiled humbly. Now let's do this. You're right, let's do this. I climbed up onto the table and laid back. Bill went back to the panel on the wall, checking his work and prepping for the final testing phase. I closed my eyes and prayed to Jesus for support. We're ready, Bill announced, pulling his goggles down over his eyes, transporting in 3, 2, 1. My final thoughts were of my precious smiling Gail, wearing her blue blouse. Clank! Bill slammed down the metal switch on the wall. I felt a warm, fuzzy sensation in my lower abdominals. My abdomen glowed a brilliant blue, and within moments, the pressure was gone. My poop baby belly deflated, and I felt my body release a cocktail of endorphins and oxytocin, the kind of happiness and bonding chemicals a man's body releases after a really good poop. I opened my eyes and sat up. Bill, we did it, I cried. We did it, Bill cheered. We hugged each other and laughed in manly victory. With our solution finally at hand, we proudly got to work on employing a convenient way for all the vagina butt men affected by poop pregnancy to use this technology quickly and easily whenever they need it. Without further ado, allow me to announce the official release of iPoop. iPoop is a free app available for all Android phones that allows any man to transport their poop directly from their bowels and into deep space with the simple press of a button. In other words, push to poop, TM. The poop inside your bowel is detected and safely transported out of your body without needing to pass through your penis, vagina, butt, or any other orifice of the body. This app works on women as well, so it may appeal to morbidly obese women and men who refuse to leave their armchairs and who run the risk of becoming fused to their couches by poop. It's also convenient for any millennial on the go when they really need to go, and man children who still sit around playing video games in their mid to late 20s. I can say that using iPoop is just as pleasurable and emotionally satisfying as having a real poop. So far, the men have given positive feedback, remarking that the app is fun, addictive, a good time killer, and that gives them another excuse to be on their phones. Most men are on their phones while pooping anyhow. This app adds convenience and makes pooping easy for everyone. One word of warning is that users of the app should hold very still after pushing in order for the scanner to detect the correct coordinates of the poop. So far, we haven't had anyone disappear or accidentally teleport their intestines into deep space, but it helps to remain cautious. I hear that Bill and I have been elected to receive a Nobel Prize for our work and our invention of the iPoop app. With great relief, I now look forward to enjoying many good years with my vagina butt and the vagina butts of all the men still on the marriage list. I look forward to the day I look into my precious Gail's adoring eyes, and instead of spreading open the legs of Vladimir, Hugh, or Gerard, I will spread open Gail's and enter her true vagina. Your safe and adoring husband, Brent Spiner.